This tank has been my favorite aquarium I've ever owned, and it's also been the cause of most of my fish keeping stress. Today, I'm going to take what I hope is the last step in fixing that. When I first got this 8 foot long by 3 foot deep by 2 foot tall tank, my plan was to have Oscars, Severums, and Arowanas in it. Something you might not know about me is that silver Arowanas and Oscars are what got me into this hobby. They were the first 2 fish I bought back in 1993, and I've been obsessed with them ever since. So to have a huge tank with both of them in it is literally a dream come true for me. With Arowanas being top swimmers and Oscars being interior decorators, I really wasn't concerned about substrate. I figured I'll keep things easy and just keep it bare bottom. But things with this tank didn't work out the way I planned. I had one Arowana jump out of a tiny opening in the back of the tank. I mean, this was the tiniest crack you've ever seen, but he still found his way out of it. Then I had another one pass away for some reason I was never really able to figure out, and that left me with only one and the Oscars. And well, that didn't last long. The Oscars started getting pretty big and everything was fine, but then one day they said, okay, that's enough. We don't want you in here anymore. And they took out that last Arowana. So long story short, this tank pretty much became the Oscars tank for a while, but then something caught my eye. I was at Schools of Fish in Richmond, Virginia, and saw an Endlicheri and Lepradi biker. You might call them Bichirs or Bishers, but I say biker because I think it sounds cool. I've kept a couple different types of bikers in the past, and I've absolutely loved them, so I thought maybe I should bring these home and put them with the Oscars. They were pretty expensive, but they were big enough to where I didn't think there'd be a huge issue with the Oscars bothering them. Of course, you never really know, but it was worth a shot, right? Well, yeah, it was, but I decided to do what I always recommend you do, and I left the store without them so I could take some time to think about it before making such a huge purchase. These 2 fish were going to cost me well over $400, so I wanted to feel really good about it before pulling the trigger. Well, I spent the course of the next 2 weeks completely obsessing over these fish, and I couldn't get them out of my head. I said, you know what? They're a really good size. They're bigger than the Pleco I have in the tank already, and the Oscars don't mess with him at all, so I think it'll work. But Schools of Fish was about an hour and a half away from us, so I just figured we'd make a trip down there at some point and I'd get them. But what I didn't know was Lisa was going to be meeting up with one of our fish distributors a couple days later to pick up a shipment of betas. And where was she going to be meeting them? Yep, Schools of Fish. And guess what she did? She bought me those 2 bikers while she was there. That woman. This is twice in 3 weeks I've made a video about her surprising me with fish. Yeah, she's a pretty awesome chick, I gotta say. Maybe that's why she got the huge surprise given to her that we did a video about last week. If you missed that one, I'll put a card up in the corner for it. If you're a cat lover, I definitely recommend watching it. Anyway, she got me those 2 amazing fish and I was instantly in love. I haven't had fish impact me the way those fish did in a long time. They are the best. I'll put another card up in the corner for a video I did all about these fish if you want to check it out, but I've got to warn you. If you watch that video, you're going to want to get some of these, and you're going to need a big tank, big food, and you're going to need to do big maintenance. They are the best fish I've ever owned, but you've been warned. So now let's fast forward to May of 2022. Lisa and I moved to our place in North Carolina, and we were very fortunate to have friends come from far away to help us. Whip's World came down from Chicago and brought me some deep dish Chicago style pizza and also provided a lot of the muscle that we needed to get these tanks moved. Then there was Eric and Eddie that came up from Florida. They had plenty of muscle, and Eric from Furloughs Aquatics brought me a gift too, but it wasn't Florida style pizza. If that's even a thing. No, he brought me a foot-long ornate biker. This is a fish I've been wanting for a while, and they're hard to find big enough to go in with my big guys. This fish was the perfect size, and here's something funny about it. It's been in the tank with them for just over a year, and he's already bigger than the other two. But seriously, think about this. How lucky am I? I have 3 incredible bikers, and they were all gifts. I gotta pinch myself sometimes. After we settled in from the move, I decided I wanted to do something with this tank, which turned out to be one of the messiest mistakes I've ever made. I decided to put sand in it. I figured sand would be gentle on the bikers' bellies and it would look so much better than a bare bottom. I couldn't have been more wrong. This was a total disaster in every way, and it wasn't the sand's fault. Sand in an aquarium is fine, and it looks really good, but when you have heavy hitters in the tank like these, there's a really big issue that I don't hear talked about much. The Lincoln log sized poops that come out of these monsters sticks to the sand, and when you're trying to clean it out, it won't come up the siphon because it's weighed down. There's certainly ways around this. I could have used just the hose instead of the big siphon, but then some of the sand would have gotten lost every time I did a water change because it would have been stuck to the poop, and every single time I did maintenance, the sand would just get thinner and thinner and thinner. Yeah, I know. Real first world problems, right? Well, if it was the only problem, I could have lived with it, but there's something else. It just didn't look good. The tank always looked dirty and murky, and it even dimmed out a lot of the colors of the fish. I just didn't like it. What more do you want me to say? So yes, I completely removed the sand and went back to where I started. You know, it's hard to admit when you've made a mistake, but sometimes you just gotta suck it up, admit you were wrong, and fix the problem. But please, let's keep that last statement between us. I don't need Lisa hearing that. So we're back to square one. The tank looked better, but it didn't look good. I mean, it would look good right after a water change, but I swear it would only take about 15 minutes and you'd start seeing poop floating around. And the next day, it would be a disgusting mess. At this point, I was pretty defeated, but I refused to give up. This is my favorite aquarium I've ever owned, full of my favorite fish that have become a part of my family. I have to do right by them. I just don't know what the hell to do. Until I had a conversation with my friend from Caribsea at Aquashella. I told him the issue I was having with the tank and how I'd ultimately like it to look, and he made some suggestions of some of their products that could fix me right up. Well, that's what leads to this video. Yes, that was 4 pages of scripts to tell you, hey, I'm putting another substrate in this tank. I ordered 2 different substrates from Caribsea's Supernaturals line. The first is Gemstone Creek. This is a natural looking gravel that's rounded off and smooth without a bunch of sharp edges. I need this in my situation because the bikers spend a lot of their time laying down on the substrate. I'd really rather their cute little bellies not get all scratched up. And the second one is called Peace River, which is basically the same as Gemstone, just smaller. It's not quite sand, it's more like a really fine gravel, which will be heavy enough not to float around or get stuck to the poop like the play sand I had in before. These substrates come in 20-pound bags, and I gotta tell you a little story about them. When we ordered this, we also ordered the substrate for Lisa's new tank. We have a tendency to order way more than we actually need, and with this, it was no exception. I ordered 20 bags of the Gemstone and 20 bags of the Peace River, plus 26 bags of Lisa's substrate. Subscribe if you want to see which one we chose for her. 66 20-pound bags that were packed 2 bags per box. So 33 40-pound boxes that were dropped about 100 feet from the fish house door. 33 trips back and forth with 40-pound boxes of gravel. The first 10 or so really wasn't a big deal. The second 10 started getting pretty tough, and then by the time I got to the 30th box, I was pretty much dead. But that's when my hero showed up and saved the day. Carrying all of these 40-pound boxes on the hottest day of the year, and Lisa shows up with only 3 boxes left. I still haven't figured out if she's super mean or just super smart. Anyway, thankfully I didn't die and we got them all in a few days later, I started the project. These substrates are clean when you get them, but they still need to be rinsed off before you put them in the aquarium, especially if you're adding them to an existing tank like I'm doing. If you're putting this in a brand new tank, you can probably get away with just rinsing them a little bit, but in my situation, I wanted to get it good and clean before putting it in. The way I did this was I took a 5-gallon bucket and I put a bag of each type of sand in it. Then propped it up on a rock outside, put the hose in it, and just started mixing it up and getting it cleaned off. After rinsing them really good, I'd just leave the hose in the bucket and let it run till the water was clear. I'd say each bucket took 5 to 10 minutes to get really clear, which isn't a bad thing because after a while, lugging these bags around and then 40-pound buckets, it's nice to get little breaks in. So my procedure went like this. 2 bags in each bucket, rinse them out, then bring them in, put them in the tank, and then do the same thing over and over and over. I think I ended up using 32 bags of substrate in this tank. Now 32 bags might seem like a lot, but I have my reasons. If you look at my albino tiger Oscar, you'll see he's got some scarring on his head. Well, Oscar keepers might look at that and say, it's hole in the head, but it's not. He got these marks from trying to swim under the branches of the tree stump I have in there. The tree stump might look real, but it's not. It's a man-made product by Universal Rocks, and it actually feels like rough stone. Well, a fish trying to swim under it and scraping his head on it is like rubbing it up against sandpaper. To try to stop this from happening, I wanted to make sure I got a good mound of substrate around the stump. Yeah, I know the Oscars will just dig underneath it, but I can control this when I do water changes. If they dig it out, I'll just put it back. And this seems to have helped out really good because his head's already healing up nice. So after getting all of the bags rinsed and putting them into the tank, you can see it's pretty daggone cloudy. This isn't a problem at all, and it's not harmful to the fish in any way. It's just dust from the processing of the gravel. I could have had less of this if I just rinsed it more, but seriously, it was super hot, I was getting assaulted by bugs, and I just wanted to be done with it. Plus, having used many Caribsea products in the past, I knew this was going to be gone in no time at all. Again, if you're setting up a brand new tank, you'll rinse the substrate and fill the tank up super slow and never even have this issue. But because I was putting it in an existing tank, it's something I had to deal with. But here you can see footage from the next day, and you can't even tell the water was ever cloudy. It looks absolutely perfect. I am a really big fan of this look. It's colorful yet natural looking, it won't harm the bikers' bellies, and it really does a good job of disguising the waste from the fish. This is what I should have done from the very beginning. Caribsea is one of those brands every fish keeper who's ever lived knows about. They are the industry standard in substrates, and unless you're using play sand, pool filter sand, or unicorn vomit, you've probably got one of their products in your tank right now. They've been in this game forever, and I don't think it's even up for debate. They're the best in the business. I'll put a link in the description of their site, and if you're interested in getting any of their products, it's not going to be hard. They're in just about every fish store in the world, and if your store doesn't carry any of their products, I'd seriously question if that store even knows what they're talking about. They've got substrates for every situation you can imagine for freshwater or saltwater. In fact, I have their marine sand and life rock in my saltwater tank, and it's perfect. This company to me is one of those automatic things. When you think about substrates, you think about Caribsea, and that's exactly what we did. When Lisa started putting a plan together for her tank and we started talking about what we were going to put in it, we immediately went to Caribsea's website. I mean, what other brand are you even going to look at? Anyway, I don't have to sell this company to you. Everyone knows Caribsea is the best, and when it comes to the last 2 tanks I've set up, their products have been perfect. The footage you're seeing right now is 1 week after I installed this, and just look at it.
Just look at that.
The tank looks better than it's looked in years. Usually a week after a water change, it would look like this. But now, I honestly believe this tank is finally done. It's taken 4 years, 2 states, 2 substrates, 3 different lights, and a water changing system, but it's finally done. These fish are officially the most spoiled fish we own, and it feels good. Well, they're the most spoiled fish until Lisa's tank gets done. Subscribe to see what goes in there. Thank you so much for watching, and a big thank you to Caribsea for helping us out with this project. Now, I'm going to go kick back and enjoy what I've created.